So now we're going to talk about supply. So quantity supplied is the good or service that a firm is willing and able to supply at a given price. A supply schedule shows it's a table that shows the relationship between price of a product and quantity supplied. A supply curve shows the relationship between the price of a product and the quantity of the product supplied. One of the big problems I try to explain to people is demand is easier to think about because as consumers we understand demand. Supply is the opposite of demand because you have to think like a business owner when you're trying to answer supply questions. So we're talking about the supply of tablets. We showed earlier, in the earlier video, we showed the demand for tablets at certain prices. And this supply is positively sloped. And that means it increases, right? So at $300 a tablet, firms are willing to supply 3 million quantities per month. At $400, as the price goes up, they're willing to supply more. Why? Because I can make more profit. It makes good use of my time to make these. 500 at 600, they're going to supply 6 million tablets, and at 700, they're going to supply 7 million. The law of supply is the rule that holding everything else constant, or ceteris paribus, increase in price causes an increase in quantity supplied. Decrease in price causes a decrease in quantity supplied. So, a shift in the supply curve to the right is an increase, and a shift in the supply curve to the left would be a decrease. The following reasons are variables that shift market supply. The price of inputs. So the change in the price of an input is anything used in production. It is the most likely factor to cause a supply curve to shift. I think about the airline industry or the cruise ship and how the cost of fuel changes how much they're willing to supply at a certain price. Basically, it drives up the price, right? Here's why. Because they're only willing to supply so many things at a certain price. And when price of inputs go up, it changes the supply. A technology change. It can be positive or negatively change the ability of the firm to produce at a given level of output with a given quantity of inputs. Most of the time it's positive, but it can be negative. The price of substitutes in production. Alternative products that a firm could produce are called substitutes in production. So I think about Coca-Cola. On the line at Coca-Cola, they could produce Coke or Diet Coke or Sprite. So the price of the substitutes, how much they can sell the substitute for, or they could produce Dasani water, I believe is Sprite, is Coca-Cola. So as the demand for, as they can sell water for even more cost than soda, they might produce more water instead of soda. So price of substitutes in production. Number of firms in the market. A change in the number of firms in the market will change the supply. And the reason is because if there's more people selling the product, then there's more competition, therefore changing the number of products in the marketplace. And the final thing is change in expected future prices. If a firm believes that the price of its product will be higher than it is in the future, higher in the future than it is today, there will be an incentive to decrease the supply now and increase it in the future. Think about like snowstorm situations. I think about that. So if they held back on shovels and until there was a snowstorm and people were willing to pay way more in the middle of a snowstorm. I remember a snowblower broke in the middle of that 2 winters ago when maybe it was 3 winters ago, and it was just crazy amounts of snow. And we could have paid twice as much for the retail cost of a snowblower, and we still couldn't get one. So, if the price of an input goes up, supply will decrease or shift left. If there's an increase in productivity, then supply will increase. The cost of producing the good will go down. If the price of a substitute in production goes up, that means I can sell water for more. I'm going to decrease selling the supply of Coke. If there's an increase in the number of firms in the market, then supply will shift right or increase. Additional firms results in greater quantity supplied at every price. The expected future prices of a product if there's an increase, then they'll stop selling the good, supplying the good today, and wait until they can sell it for a higher price. So shift left, decrease. The difference in the change in supply versus the change in quantity supplied. Quantity supplied is, again, movement on the same curve, like the demand, but this is supply. And then a change in supply is shift from B to C, not from A to B. If you're on the same curve, that's change in quantity. And we are going to stop here.